No.
You don't remember? You're not keeping track of my wardrobe and backgrounds to make sure I get a fresh rotation?
I do think it's time for you to get sponsored by some sort of libertarian, freedom-loving T-shirt line. Like, how do we get that set up? Because you're always very fashion-forward with the T-shirt that you're wearing. Every show.
Try to be.
Most shows.
Yeah, we'll see. First, I got to get more viral videos, and then they'll be happy to sponsor me. But maybe I can reach out first. I don't know. I don't know how that would work, partnership. But we shall see. Maybe in due time.
Yeah, I think we need to reach out. I think that's the thing. I just don't know which company. I know some people that sponsor some of those shirts. Like that Lauren Therese. Man, the memes that get dropped on that account are incredible. All right, so that'll be our question of the day, Blake. For everybody out there in the galaxy watching us, please leave your comments. We appreciate when Jane says hi, Blake, and hi, Brian.
Hello, Jane.
And Jane says that she loves the shirt. So please leave your comments in here. The question of the day is, do you know any influencers who promote a great line of liberty-themed clothing? Like I said, Lauren Therese, I don't know if that's Instagram or Facebook. That's just this libertarian, and it's cool shirts and stuff.
There's a few. Would they send me free stuff? I don't expect them to pay me, since I'm probably not going to go viral enough for them to make any sales, but I will wear their stuff if I like it. There you go.
All right.
I don't know how to get through the as soon as I get through the censorship and the shadow banning and all that stuff. I mean, they hit me hard. They hit me hard. I barely post anything on Twitter X. Anything I reply to somebody is always hidden under see more replies. So I mean, it's like, I don't know. I don't get enough reach out there, and I don't know what to do about it, quite frankly. I need some bigger influencer to just have mercy on me. I've been doing cutting edge content for 12 years. Can somebody just throw me a whatever help? Yes. Anyway,
maybe it's time for a new handle. How long have you been TV's Blake Walley? At TV's Blake Walley on X. Follow him. How long has that been?
That started in 2020.
Maybe it's time for a third. Maybe it's time for a third fresh handle. I'm not saying delete the old account, but maybe start a fresh one that isn't already attached to algorithms and with bots thrown in. Because Elon's only had the company for a year or two, and you've had it since 4.5 years ago.
Yeah, I used to have so much more reach back in 10 years ago than I do now.
That's my recommendation. I think it would be worth starting a fresh account and seeing what happens with fresh parameters. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, everyone, make sure you're following Blake on X. He's at TV's Blake Walley. Make sure you're following us. We are the new American media because the old American media failed. We are at American_media_. This is Thursday, June 13, 2024. Thank you for joining us on the Agree to Disagree show here. But that's our comment of the day. If you know any awesome liberty-themed stuff, put it in the chat, please. Make sure you're subscribed and you're liking us in all of the places. Today, we're going to talk about the Bay of Pigs Part 2. What's that all about? We're going to talk about January 6th charges. Is there something monumental on the horizon, perhaps? And was the committee, the unselect committee, as some like to call it, was that legitimate or illegitimate and revisionist? Also, who is complicit in dismissing Hunter's laptop? Let's unpack that, because this is at the top of everyone's minds right now. Jane says, your time is coming, Blake. It's awesome because depending on how you say that, your time is coming, Blake. Like it's a threat. It's a threat. But in the way she's doing it, it's like, your time's coming, Blake. You keep being you.
I thought I was a rising star in 2012, and then for some reason I was shunned and I became the biggest pariah in the independent media. Just never been the same.
Well, like Jane's saying, your time is coming. We're talking about these stories.
Sure hope so. I've
Garland
been doing some great stuff for a long time. It's not been but time is coming.
But I think the time is coming for the deep state, for Garland, for all of this stuff, Blake. It seems like all these stories are converging. And the dam is just breaking. There is no way to hold up all of the lies that have been propping this together, all the cracks, all the holes, all the fingers in the dikes. Yes, I know what a funny phrase that's turned out to be, but it's just all of this stuff is being exposed at the same moment now. We're middle of June, just a couple of months before the election. It's such an interesting moment in time. And you know what? You and I, we're going to document it. We're going to put it out there. We're going to call it like we see it. And people are going to find value in it because we have 12 years, 13, 14 years of experience, Blake. We've been sifting through this. As Jane Meyer likes to say, we have conservative principles for a self-proclaimed liberal. Talking about you, Blake.
Yeah, that's true. I don't
liberal with conservative principles, so your work is more uphill.
That's true. I don't really fit in with any particular group. I've always been kind of that misfit. I don't really fit into InfoWars. I don't fit into Gaia. I don't fit in with Gateway Pundit. I don't fit in with Glenn Beck. I don't fit in with the Daily Wire. I don't fit in with the Daily Show. I'm just kind of politically, philosophically homeless. So I'm kind of my own guy. So it's been, it has very uphill battle. Thank you, Jane. Well said.
But I will say, there's been a lot of overlap with TNAM for all these years.
Right. We've been collaborating and cross-promoting for a long time.
A long time. It's better to cover the news when you're kind of, everyone's doing their own thing, but it's interesting to kind of be on a team as well. It is a small world when you start going to all these events. There's a lot of faces that we've seen over the past 15 years, time and time again. It's what do they say? It's just a matter of time. If you hang around a barbershop long enough, eventually somebody's going to give you a haircut. You know, coming from a guy that got a free $300 haircut in Chicago one time. That is true. Let me tell you, that is true. So anyway, regardless, their time being up, we're going to talk about the deep state being complicit in Hunter's laptop. Also, AG Garland, should he be detained for contempt of Congress? Also, are people concerned or not concerned about cheating at the election? I think that one might be obvious. The death of the dollar. Is that something way off in the conspiracy world realm or something a little closer in the rearview mirror than objects appear? And finally, the Olympics. Let's talk about something other than Caitlin Clark for a change. How about it? We will do that on the other side. This is the Agree to Disagree show. Thank you for joining us. Here we go. All right, Blake, agree or disagree here? Russian ships off the Cuban coast pose a serious threat to the United States. This would be an agree or disagree. Do these ships off the coast of Cuba/Florida propose a significant threat to the United States?
Well, Brian, this is this is a story you brought for show and tell, but I'm going to just automatically say yes. Putin is not messing around. He just wants to be left alone. He wants to protect his people. He wants to liberate the people out of eastern and southern Ukraine that would rather be part of Russia. And yes, we should not be poking around with the Russian bear. Everything that they've said about him has been BS. They act like he's trying to, dominate the planet. He's expanding west. He's going to, go start with Ukraine and, he's going to go to Poland. He has no interest in conquering. He just wants to protect the Russian civilization. But yeah, since they've been meddling enough and they keep running this proxy war against him, and they've basically surrounded his country for decades, I guess it's all fair game for him to, reignite the Cuban Missile Crisis, I suppose. By how do you like it, United States, when you've got missiles pointed at you? And of course, Ukraine just ran some kind of unprovoked attack, going after some of their satellite sensors or something to do with nuclear capabilities for missile detection. I wasn't prepared for this story, but it has been something floating around that I have seen in the last week or two. So things are continuing to escalate, and this is the latest version of it, but it's much closer to home now, so maybe we should start taking it seriously.
Yeah, this is literally right on the doorsteps of the United States at this point, and this would be a good time to let people know that Joe Biden does not represent the views of the American people. He did not represent the views of the American people in 2020. He was installed by a corrupt regime that overthrew the sitting president. We don't want a nuclear war, and we're just kind of trapped in this location at the moment under this air quote leadership. Hopefully cooler heads will prevail, but the entire deep state apparatus, Blake, they are a wounded animal. They are lashing out. They're on their final gasps. They know that they've overplayed their hand. They know that all of the lies are being uncovered in ways that connect them to all of the other stuff, and there's nothing that can support the weight of the fake narrative that they've been building for all these years. It's all collapsing around them. And that led us to ask the question a couple hours ago: will @real Donald Trump need to vacate Florida due to the Biden, Newland, Obama, Ukraine war that created Russian ships off the Florida-Cuba coast? Oh, I hate when a tweet goes out and there's a spelling error in it. That's supposed to be Russian ships. But yeah, Blake, I mean, this has been
you signed up for premium, Brian. You'd be allowed to edit that.
Oh, you can't edit unless you pay for premium?
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Brian's a freeloader. He's Where's your blue check mark, Brian? You look illegitimate. Illegitimate account.
You look illegitimate.
But then I pay for it, and then I get shadow banned. So, it's not fair.
Okay, so there's that.
If I look at stuff, I'm going, how come I can't get any traction on it? Oh, and I look on my other account and I realize, I can't see anything. It looks like I posted something under my own account, but if I look through my other account, I go, where was my reply? Oh, I got to look at the bottom and I got to go show more replies, and then go another step further after that, and then I'll start to see where I'm actually at. That's
all right, Blake. I think you need to start a brand new account with brand new algorithmic stuff attached.
Perhaps.
I think it's
they can't clean it up. Why can't they just tell me what I did, or what? Want me to take down a couple of posts?
Just corrupted.
What did I do?
It's just a corrupted hard drive, dude. Like it's just broken.
Trolling people, but I think I'm doing a public service. Why should I get punished for that? If somebody wants to block me, they can block me, and I can't troll them anymore.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, Blake, is this could be the people who ran that company in 2020 that are gone, and they still haven't figured out how your account has been negatively dinged. Start fresh. Maybe your account won't get dinged like that. I'm telling you, I think it's well worth the shot, and I think you should do it immediately.
That's 12 years.
There's been a lot of complaints from people that even with the old guard deep state apparatus who used to run Twitter into the ground, they're long gone, but like the damage they've caused is still popping up. They still can't unwrap, they can't unscramble the eggs of what they were doing over there. So anyway, something to keep an eye on. But what do you think of the question, Blake, about real Donald Trump? Do you think he might really want to get out of Florida and go somewhere safe for the next few months and actually vacate Mar-a-Lago because of this?
Not necessarily, because if there's a nuclear war, it's not just going to be Florida affected. It's going to be the entire planet's going to get destroyed. So things are going to escalate. They shoot off a nuclear weapon, then there's going to be retaliation and back and forth. And the next thing you know, it's going to be the Stone Age again. And for whoever manages to survive the disaster. So,
oh, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. In that case, shouldn't he be inside the mountains in Colorado?
Yeah, I guess for what? He's going to spend 20 years living in a bunker until things clear out. I don't know. Yeah, it's the end of the world. I'd hate to think that's going to happen, but maybe it is. So I don't know. Maybe it's time for Time to just take it up, start it all over, flood it down.
Well, I think people need to take a step in their brain and mentally play out the next couple of steps, like to the worst case scenario, to the extremes, because that's really what we're dancing with here. And I do not trust the Obama, Newland, Biden regime at all. Over here on X, Marina Medvin says, "Dear Trump, while you were gone, Russia decided to revive the Cold War, has sent warships to Cuba, and is threatening us with nuclear weapons. It's time to come back. Sincerely, a voter." You know, how much of this, Blake, do you think is just the Biden regime versus just what Russia was going to be doing anyway? Do you think this is all the fault of the current deep state Biden regime, or do you think a significant or smaller portion of this has to do with Putin and what he's up to? Do you go 100% to zero? Do you go 50-50, 80-20? How much blame do you fault Biden and his regime for?
Probably at least 95%. And I'm not, it's like, putting Putin on a pedestal, not by any means. But in this situation, I believe he is right. The people in the Donbass would rather be part of Russia. They don't like to be part of Ukraine. They're not treated well. There was a genocide there. You're absolutely getting, an awful deal from the Zelensky regime. Crimea has voted like 90% of their population wants to be part of Russia. But this is all NATO, USA, deep state. We should just leave Russia alone. They should have just had negotiations. Let those people, if they want to vote to be part of Russia, let them. And then none of this ever had to happen.
Right. Jane is adding her thoughts, saying, could this posturing by Russia be just for show, as in part of the movie? Yeah. I mean, the world is but a stage, Jane. This is, yes, there are some thoughts out there that President Trump is working very closely with Putin and Xi, with Russia, with China, that they're just kind of playing the end of this phase out to make sure they wrap up all of the bad actors in one fell swoop. That's called hopium, and you're not supposed to overdose on that. But, like this person, Concerned Citizen, posted here, this is the video that you've been watching on a loop here right off the coast of Florida, saying we've gone from 2 weeks to flatten the curve to Russian nuclear-powered submarines parked just a short distance off the coast of Florida in Havana, Cuba. So, I mean, this is just insane how we've allowed things to reach this point. Robert J. O'Neill says China is building a deep water megaport in South America. Russia has warships armed with hypersonic missiles in a nuclear sub in Cuba. Our youth are being blinded by TikTok. And finally here, Senator Ted Cruz says, we're seeing the effects of Joe Biden's weakness and ineffectiveness. Our enemies smell blood in the water because of his policy of appeasement. This is why we're seeing Russian warships off the shores of Cuba right now. So, I don't know, Blake. It's something worth mentioning, and it's something worth talking about. Cuba being just 90 miles away from Florida. And here's the footage, allegedly, of Russia's nuclear-powered sub arriving in Cuba, allegedly. It's almost as if there might be ramifications to waging a proxy war against a nuclear powerhouse in Russia, Blake.
Yeah. So this is our own mess. This is Victoria Nuland's mess. State Department, NATO. And yes, they've tried to mess with the Russian bear, and it could, wind up pretty badly for everybody involved. And it's going to be, if that escalates with hypersonic missiles and these two military superpowers, it's going to be the end of our civilization. So, not worth it. How about just give those communities up, get rid of Zelensky, let them have another fair election, and we can just be done with this.
Yeah, except Zelensky has banned journalism and banned elections. So who's the tyrant, folks? I mean, we're in an upside down universe at this point. We're just here trying to sort out the crazy. Let you see it, and let's see where the chips fall. But I will take this time to encourage everybody for TNAM preparedness. yeah, this would be great where I could tell you about some of our sponsors for water purification or for some solar generators. I recently had the power out for more than 48 hours at my place, and you just start thinking about things differently. I had 2 neighbors, direct neighbors, flooded basements, in part because of the problems from heavy rains. If the sump pump had a battery backup, they could have avoided all that hassle. You're talking black mold and stuff. So, look, I don't know if there's an EMP that could take our power supply out, but I'm recommending that everyone get a backup version of that, keep it in a Faraday cage if possible, and really just kind of start thinking about food and storage and safety and all the things that you would need to prioritize in a grid down scenario, because people are at war with us because of what Newland, Obama, Biden are doing with the deep state over there. Doesn't represent the people of the country. They have a hard on for this war. But unfortunately, people will be collateral damage. So I just want to offer that people go out there and try to prioritize some of those things, Blake. I don't know if there's one thing you could get, Blake, just reach off the shelf on Amazon and hit deliver. What is the one thing you would like to have show up at your door tomorrow for preparing?
The thing that's on my list that I don't have is that I used to have and I don't have anymore is a seed bank.
Oh.
So if stuff hits the fan, I can start growing my own food again. Grow a garden, whatever.
That's a good idea, Blake. Very good idea. Yeah, it's gardening season, and I've been doing a lot. I've been taking care of the yard, but that means a lot of different things year to year. And this year, a lot of it's been power washing and kind of just deferred maintenance. If you want to make something last, take care of it, clean it. But yes, definitely collecting rainwater, definitely going for solar, definitely trying to plant more plants this year and try to utilize every square inch on the property, kind of surrounded by bushes and stuff. So it's nonstop. Kenneth B says that's fear porn. Yes, it is. But look, I'm a Boy Scout. They said always be prepared. So there's no harm, no foul in being a prepared individual. And by the way, I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said it's fear porn, because as I was power washing the backside of my garage and around the, just 50 years of just collective grime that hadn't been cleaned off, I'm like, if this does go nuclear, this is so pointless. What am I doing? I'm spending these hours cleaning with the power washer. Like, who cares? Why even do anything? The whole world's going to fall on itself. But
why rearrange the deck chairs on a Titanic when you're going down?
Yeah, I lived in a apartment that caught fire, but we had, prior to that occurring, 5 days before, we cleaned out the linoleum tile in the kitchen. It was like greenish yellow. It was like from the 1970s or 1983, and we mopped it and we cleaned it up real nice. And a few days later, the house was on fire, and we watched as they were going in, the firefighters with chainsaws, and they were chucking pieces of our green linoleum tile onto the ground, smoldering, because the fire had gone through the kitchen floor. So they were removing the kitchen floor, and you're going, I spent time cleaning that floor that they chainsawed out and threw at my feet. This is insane. So yeah, I'm not going to let the fear porn get to me. I'm just going to try to get a little bit more prepared than I was yesterday. And I think it's in trying to level up in a lot of these places. I'll feel more comfortable. It's mainly when you're out of control and out of resources and in bad environments that energy can really get to you. And I think getting out of a place like Los Angeles was huge. So to everyone out there, consider fleeing your blue cities. Okay, Blake, let's get to the next topic here. Here we go. And go. And all right, Blakenstein. This one is about the thumbnail. Walk us through the thumbnail. Blake always makes the thumbnails for the Agree to Disagree show, and this was the #1 topic, although the other one had probably a much higher likelihood of ending your life. Fear porn, fear porn, fear porn. Okay, Blake, do you agree or disagree that we should throw out most of the J6 charges immediately?
Yeah, I'd say most of them, unless there were, actual J6 people, protesters, what have you, that were actually committing violence, that were just there to cause mayhem and mischief. Those people, I mean, they probably already served their time. It's already been long enough. I mean, what could they have possibly done to warrant them being in there that long? But most of the people, as far as I'm concerned, were just innocent and doing what Americans are supposed to do. So that's what it was. It was, a protest to what happened with the election, and people thought that perhaps there was some meddling going on, and that they would take a look at a different set of electorates and keep Trump in power. They had questions, and things got a little out of hand. But a lot of people just had no idea that they were in some sort of restricted area and were heavy-handedly punished because they wanted to, the deep states, wanted to frame this as some sort of a violent insurrection, but it was not. So, yeah, this is where I got you brought this all to my attention, Brian, because you tagged me on this particular post, and I ripped this picture off from that post, which is now in our thumbnail. It is from Alexander Shepard, who was also there that day. It says, "We are all hoping soon the Supreme Court makes the right decision. There is a case going through, United States versus Fisher, and it throws out the 1512 obstruction charge that was misused against 340 plus people, January 6th protesters, including him, Alexander Shepard. So the charge, the only felony of which he was convicted of, has a sentencing maximum of 20 years. Good God, that's like over a quarter of most people's lives. And it was also used in both of President Trump's federal indictments, but it is a business corruption law. It was never meant to be used against protesters. But as soon as Biden took office, he did his dictator thing and threw his political opposition in prison, along with anybody else that stood up to the regime. So kind of the weaponized DOJ, FBI, every other three-letter agency weaponized against the people, especially those who fought for election integrity, who questioned the 81 million legitimate votes in 2020, on and on. According to him, not CISA, which you can go visit CISA down the scroller on the bottom, because they ensure that this was the most secure and safe election ever, even with all of the mail-in ballots. But sidetracked, some people believed it was rigged and stolen. And if we don't have fair elections, we don't have a country, certainly not a republic. So peaceful protest is a First Amendment right. Founding fathers gave us the Second Amendment to protect from tyrannical governments. And anyway, he was just gone through the ringer, unconstitutionally charged with these crimes. And he's proud to stand up with Trump and the 100 million disenfranchised voters at the polls in a couple of months. Anyway,
by the way, Blake, let me jump onto the screen here and just show you this. Just a little reminder. This is from George. It's from Beheezy Tweets. Breaking: 4 Democrat officials in Bridgeport, Connecticut have been charged and arrested for the mail-in ballot fraud committed in the city's primary election. City Councilman Alfredo Castillo, Vice Chair of Bridgeport's Democratic Party, Wanda Getter Pataki, were charged with. By the way, let's just watch her on camera, as every voting place should be under 24/7 surveillance, and it should all be saved in perpetuity. Multiple illegal absentee ballots being deposited into the ballot box at 5:43 a.m., by the way. These people were charged with election tampering, and 2 campaign workers, Nilsa Heredia and Josephine Edmonds, were charged with election fraud and unlawful possession of another person's ballot. This is according to the Gateway Pundit. So as we're talking about elections and how elections can be stolen, taken, overthrown in a coup, which is treason, we're looking here at Bridgeport and seeing what's going on in Connecticut, Blake. I mean, people said for years and years, there is no such thing as widespread election fraud. There is no such thing as any election fraud that could have any determinative value in any election anywhere, even though the tiny margin of error in some cases are just tens of thousands of votes that determine the leader of the free world, Blake. I know that X is allowing us to have these conversations more than we used to. We know that places like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Meta products, they might lower our reach on programs like this that will discuss it. But I mean, the people that showed up on January 6th, do you think that they've been more vindicated or that they've been proven even more absurd over this amount of time when we were told nothing happened? This is fully legitimate.
Yeah, the narrative has been changing. Certainly Tucker Carlson, which he paid the price for by revealing a lot of the lies from the J6 committee. And of course, they've erased the evidence and they put on a clown show trial and wouldn't allow the serious Republicans into their committee. Instead, they brought up two of the hacktivists with Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. And so they definitely framed this, as an insurrection. And they it perpetuated that lie for years on the American people. But as we dig in more, we're starting to realize that they were full of it. And now we've got, it's called revisionist history, and it's coming out, and they are getting exposed now for some of the things that they've been saying. And they put out, they had Cassidy Hutchinson, all kinds of weird testimonies from dirty players, dirty cops, like, Harry Dunn and Michael Fanoni or whatever. So just one by one, things are getting debunked as we get further into this. And they've certainly put a lot of good people in prison into a horrible DC gulag that never deserve to be there in the first place, but that was the narrative, and they wanted to set that so they could basically, take over, put their political opposition in jail, and basically hijack the country from within. So,
and let me just bookend it, because these are two separate stories. But once again, to anyone that wants to push a false narrative, we've been proven right yet again. I've lost track of how many stories we were demonetized for, shadow banned for, deleted, had accounts disappeared and disabled on us for having wrong think on issues that we were in fact accurate on. I know that J6 is different from Connecticut, but let me just round this out here. This is from Douglas McGregor. This says 4 Connecticut Democrat leaders arrested, charged with election fraud from CT Public. He says nothing to see here. Connecticut prosecutors announced on Tuesday that they brought charges against 4 Bridgeport political figures for allegedly exploiting the absentee balloting process during the city's 2019 Democratic mayoral primary, Blake. It's taken 5 years to get from the 2019 Democratic mayoral primary to finally get this to the point where charges are being brought. Among those implicated in election-related allegations, here are their names again. This person held the position of vice chairwoman within the city's Democratic Party and was previously embroiled in another significant election controversy. Charges also filed against these 2 people, both campaign operatives involved in the 2019 mayoral race. All 4 defendants accused of unlawfully possessing absentee ballots belonging to others. And then there's several other election-related offenses, Blake. I mean, we are still unpacking what happened to us in 2019, 2020. But now it's like you're finally seeing the stories of people paying the price for rigging the elections. I mean, we don't have a country if we can't hold honest elections here. So, Lord willing, we're going to be able to, kind of turn things around a little bit, have a little bit of accountability, Blake. Any final thoughts on this topic?
No, I think it absolutely, if this is a law that's being misapplied on peaceful protesters, then it should be removed.
And I guess we're going to find out. It's not happening today. It may be as early as tomorrow. Not entirely sure, but stay tuned to the New American Media in all of the places. It's a very important story, so we will be posting about it one place or another. This would be a good place to segue, Blake. By the way, follow Blake on X. He's at TV's Blake.
Well, maybe.
Walley.
Isn't there another one we have about the illegitimate and revisionist history that we can throw in real quick?
Yeah, let's do the revisionist history first.
This
one just popped up in my Twitter timeline, but yes, you're right.
Yeah, we don't have to spend much time on it. Let's just make sure that we cover it while we're on the subject. So,
right, good point. I know you used those phrases. I didn't know if you got to your full point or not. So let's expand on the J6 committee, Blake. Were they illegitimate and were they revisionist?
Well, yeah, it's definitely revisionist, as we're seeing now from people like Nancy Pelosi, who could have had the National Guard there, and then nothing would have happened that day. It would have been like, oh, it's a huge peaceful protest, but the National Guard surrounded Congress, and nothing actually happened. And then who knows what the results of that day, and in that alternate timeline, if it does exist somewhere. So,
imagine, yeah. Blake, imagine where they actually had to debate the issue at hand. And the people were just outside and they were chanting and they were singing and they were like, do your jobs. Like this is not accurate. You know, it's not accurate. You're not pulling one over on us. You know, we know, you know that we know, we know that you know that we know, like, do it. Stop it. Like, you've really got to go back and figure out what's going on here. Cause that's what those people were saying. That's what was happening.
Right. Well, even Nancy Pelosi was on video talking about, you know, submitting with the Arizona electors. So they were saying that, you know, Trump probably won Arizona and they weren't going to accept that. And so they were going to bring in those electors, but Joe could have still won electoral college. But yeah, there was some negotiating going on. We just didn't get to hear much about it. And then all of a sudden, once, you know, there was a breach of the Capitol and things were, you know, it was mayhem, then that became the story. And so that we forgot about all of the actual details and why, you know, people were there and what could have happened had we looked at alternate electors and had, you know, Pence done some things that he could have done, you know, and some of the other senators that were getting ready to you know, make their presentations about how they thought there was, you know, election shenanigans. So things could have turned out very differently that day, but we'll never know. But we can get to the truth, even if it takes 5 years. But yes, we've seen Nancy Pelosi and some of the problems she had. But also, on another note, you're talking about Steve Bannon, you know, getting held for contempt, as well as Peter Navarro. But if they find that the let's take a look at this from Matt Gaetz here, saying that they might not have to go to jail if there is a vote taken by this bipartisan legal advisory group to tell the court that it is the official view of the House of Representatives that the J6 committee was illegitimate. So if they were illegitimate and it was just a show trial, which, you know, those guys didn't want to show up for that, and I can't say I blame them. So they were held.
So essentially, then, yeah. Blake, they're saying that they can rescind the orders to show up because it was illegitimate, and then they'll let Navarro out, and they'll reverse what Bannon's situation is. Is that where we're at?
Yeah. Well, they'd have no reason to go to jail or be held in contempt because the J6 committee would just be illegitimate. So that's an interesting, you know, way to circumvent this. We could take a look at Matt Gaetz' series on Timcast.
Yeah, I believe the only way Steve Bannon does not go to jail is if there is a vote at an entity called the BLAG, the Bipartisan Legal Advisory Group. It is made up of the Speaker of the House, the Majority Leader, the Majority Whip, the Minority Leader, and the Minority Whip. So the Republicans hold a 3-2 in this. Bannon is going to petition for an en banc review of this determination to revoke his bail. When he does, I believe the BLAG should and will take a 3-2 vote for the House to seek leave to file an amicus brief with the en banc court that the January 6th committee was illegitimate. It was illegitimately formed. It was a runaway committee. It did not have a proper minority member. And whether it's Peter Navarro or Steve Bannon, nobody should be sitting in a jail cell because they would not comply with the absurd musings of a committee unlike any before in our nation's history.
Talk me through that again. So he would go to this committee, this 5-person committee where there's 3 people.
Yes. or 3 Republicans.
And if they vote in favor, then they would create.
And what they would do is they would go to the court and say, we want to tell the court that it is now the official view of the House of Representatives that the January 6th committee was illegitimate. And then Bannon's lawyers could ask the court to take judicial notice of that vote by the BLAG, which would then give them a basis to allow his bail to stay in effect.
And Republicans can do this with the majority.
The Republicans can do this without even taking a floor vote. Mike Johnson, Steve Scalise, and Tom Emmer can do it, and it is my belief that they are working toward that end as we speak.
Oh, wonderful! That's good news.
What's just been my work all day?
What about Navarro?
Huh? He deserves the same thing.
Yeah, he deserved it yesterday. He shouldn't even be locked up.
Should not.
Okay, so that's a pretty bombshell. So but it hinges on whether Speaker Mike Johnson, whose side is he on? So he has the power in what could be a consensus committee, very easily 5 people.
Well, Matt Gaetz is saying that he believes that they're actively working toward it. So if we believe Matt Gaetz, and if we believe that his instincts are accurate, he's usually been pretty quick at calling out rats, right? I think Matt Gaetz tends to have a finger on the pulse of what's going on. So it carries more weight than if some clown would come out saying something. Like if Adam Schiff came out and said literally anything, I wouldn't want to hear it and I wouldn't believe it ever. But yeah, I think this is the play. And I think it's time to run their own investigation into the investigation. Get them now. Get them on record now. You have most of the stuff. They thought they were so clever. They thought they deleted stuff. Are you kidding me? What do they think that they deleted? What do they think that they got away with? So let's go for it. Let's investigate the investigators. Let's get it on right now, Blake. No, Kenneth, I don't know who controls Mike's Johnson. He's also Michelle Obama comment in there somewhere. So,
Big Mike.
Okay. Yes. Okay. But here's another segue into the other one, because we're talking about revisionist history. But let's just stay on this topic really quick before we get to AG Garland. Blake, do you agree, disagree that most people are worried that there will be cheating at this next election?
Yeah, agree. And it's actually from a Rasmussen poll. So yeah, 2/3, 66% of the voters believe the outcome of 2024 election will be affected by cheating. So
I wonder if that's going to get pulled down, and they have to have a CISA.gov/rumor control listing on that. I wonder if that's an opinion that people are allowed to have or not. I don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, there could be all kinds of different polls, but this is happened to be 1,051 people that were, randomly selected or whatever. But yes, people are certainly skeptical, and they have every reason to be. So these aren't done transparently anymore. And as we pointed out, which we've learned from Alex Stein, that yes, Trump won every single state in-person voting, but Joe Biden won every state through mail-in balloting. So that's a problem. That shouldn't happen. Right there, we should be concerned about everything. And 6 states, stopping counting in the middle of the night, and we've gone all over this, and we just showed this happen in Connecticut, and the 2,000 mules. There's a lot of things that were wrong, and we shouldn't have those problems.
And there's also, Blake, taking a look at the number of 100-year-olds who voted in the last 2 major elections, right, and compared to the regular average, like 100%, like 100% of 100-year-olds in some areas were voting, even in places where they were cognitively impaired with mental deficiency issues, but they're all voting suddenly.
Yeah, no, that happened in Wisconsin. They were going to nursing homes, people that were dementia patients that were not voting, but somebody voted for them. Yeah, there was all kinds of stuff. They actually had one of the Wisconsin Supreme Court justices, Gableman, went around and actually looked at a lot of this stuff. There was all kinds of problems with 2020. Please check out CISA. hear them out too. I don't care. Nothing to hide. But I mean, there shouldn't be anything to hide. Everything should be transparent when it comes to the election, and we shouldn't be, fighting over the results. So anyway, yeah, we that would be ideal for everybody. No, we shouldn't have 2/3 of the country that thinks that there's cheating going on. That's a serious corruption problem. Serious problems with our elections.
Yeah.
Get me started on the machines. Yeah.
We're in the middle of it. Let's see if we do any better this time around. I don't know, Blake. You confident? You feeling good about it?
Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest.
So you think they might be able to steal another one?
Absolutely. Yeah. As long as they have mail-in balloting and dirty voter rolls and they're not doing the canvassing and there's the ballot harvesting and every other thing. Machines, counting signatures, IDs. There's so many different ways that there's loose ends and problems everywhere. So, and they never did a full audit of anywhere, including Maricopa. So they still never got it. Yeah, there's way too many issues out there.
All right. Well, we're going to keep our eyes peeled on it. What's happening on this election? It just seems like, more and more reports are coming out after more and more, evaluation. You're seeing state after state kind of looking back on what the elections were and what it's going to be moving forward. Very curious to see if we can get back to real numbers, because you just kind of got to think if the process is accurate, shouldn't this be the biggest blowout anyone's ever seen?
Well, it's supposed to be in 2020. It was supposed to be the biggest blowout. Oh, it's going to be a landslide. Trump versus Biden. Give me a break. And then all of a sudden, really? 81 million? Yeah. Okay. Oh, and it's the most safe and secure election ever. And if you say anything, we're going to pull your social media. We're going to ban your YouTube channels. You're not even allowed to question it. How dare you?
Yeah, that's exactly how it went for a long time. And it reaches the point where it's like, as an independent content creator, you just kind of have to ask yourself, is this worth it? Is this still worth my energy? Everything that's happening, it's being hidden. It's not even reaching the ears and the eyes that it used to. What's the point? And
there wouldn't have been a J6, right? If Trump would have won, why would there be one? There'd be like a celebration to celebrate his re-election.
Well, hold on. Let's go back. Okay, so we know what Pelosi and Ray Epps and all these people, we know what they were up to. We know what they were pushing, what they were fomenting, what they were moving the barricades for, the fact that they had Hollywood producers adding sound effects that didn't actually happen. It was a frame job from the second it happened.
But I'm saying that
what I'm getting at, the second point of this is that the entire summer of 2020, America burned. They were definitely going to have their riots. They're all about their riots. They're the brown shirts. They're the thuggies. They're the strong arm. They're the people out there causing chaos, and who's funding it. Like, so they were going to riot if Trump won. Absolutely. I mean,
well, they would, but it wouldn't have been like J6.
They forced an evacuation of President Trump on a previous occasion leading up to the election. Like, these people were burning everything in sight. When we were in DC that time, everything was boarded up. It was like a zombie movie. It was really creepy. It was a weird place to be at the height of 2020, if we can think back to all of that stuff. Jane mentioning that, you put people who question, you put them in jail. And that's why I think Fox is so duplicitous and so complicit in their role of what they did with Mike Wallace, or Chris Wallace.
Not going into the right.
Mike Wallace or Chris Wallace?
No, it's Chris Wallace.
With Chris Wallace, and when they settled their lawsuit and claimed that their journalists didn't believe the stuff that they were reporting. Yes, they did. So Fox is like, you just look at the revisionist history, the people that question the election and what they did to them, and there's no forgiveness. It just has to be justice. There has to be there must be indictments for the people that staged the coup to overthrow this entire country. So, all right, moving on from that one, let's get back to Attorney General Merrick Garland. Blake, do you agree or disagree that he should be detained for contempt of Congress?
Yes, I am going to agree. I mean, it's just a very simple thing. You just got to release basically an audio recording of Biden talking to Robert Hur, and this could all go away very quickly. So I don't know why they're holding on to it, making such a fuss over this. Yes, we do have the transcripts, but we do want to hear, the context and to hear his voice. How candid was he? I mean, it must be pretty damning if they're not able, willing to provoke that. If they're willing to stand up and go to contempt over it, it must be something more serious than we're being led on to. And of course, with Robert Hur, saying, he's just an old man. Well, let's hear what it sounds like, and then maybe people will start, question more of whether Biden's even fit to run for office if he's just talking about things he shouldn't be.
By the way, Blake, let me. I'm having a. Let me make sure I was clear on something with our very first show. Sorry, just to the thought popped in my head. I want to make sure. The ships off the coast of Florida near Cuba, they're being described as missile capable, nuclear capable. The story is that they currently don't have nuclear assets on them, if you believe those reports. If I was suggesting something differently, I'm just like, when we've reached this point, the fact that we're this close to having the conversation of, do we actually know what's on there? Are they capable? To me, that's basically the same as saying that there are nuclear armed ships off the coast. Just so we're clear, the current story is that they're not.
Blake, probably not.
I don't know if that makes a difference, but I don't know if I clearly articulated that. So I wanted to just clear it up.
Okay.
But
it's good to know, because that is definitely much more elevated threat level. But even hypersonic missiles are pretty devastating too. So
I've
not
heard
going to have
reports.
this fallout, but right.
Well, I've heard reports they could take out Norfolk and what was the other big East Coast? Our entire Eastern Navy could be wiped out within 8 minutes.
Oh.
So, either we trust Obama, Newland, Biden with an army of 30 million illegal alien invaders in our country when all of our capacities go down. I just, it's definitely worth noting. So anyway, back to this story, Blake. Yeah, we're wondering how damning this could be, that they keep holding this information back. I don't know. I mean, are there people who are unconvinced that Biden is not there, that he's out to lunch? Would this really sway the needle for that many people? It's weird that they're fighting so hard on this, right?
Right. So far the GOP-led House, they voted to pass a resolution holding AG Merrick Garland in contempt. This was just yesterday. So the vote to advance the measure just by one vote. The contempt resolution is focused on Garland's refusal to turn over an audio recording of Biden's interview with special counsel Robert Hur, who investigated Biden's handling of classified documents. Biden has invoked executive privilege. Democrats argued on the House floor that the transcript of the interview is sufficient and a public release of the recording isn't needed. But Republicans argued the recording should be released for the sake of transparency. And I agree. This is our government of the people. We're paying these assholes. I want to know what they're up to. So let's hear it. GOP lawmakers who support the release of the recording have said portions of Hur's report raised concerns, particularly the part about Biden's memory. So we also have to consider that at trial, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did during our interview, as a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with poor memory. This is from special counsel. So what the F is he doing as the president? So based on their direct interactions and observations of him, he is someone for whom many jurors will want to identify reasonable doubt. It would be difficult to convince a jury that they should convict him because he's a president in his 80s of a serious felony that requires a mental state of willfulness. I mean, either way, he has no business being our president.
And this is the person on watch in case Putin does something aggressive, in case our own deep state does something stupid to provoke something aggressive. This is the person allegedly at the levers of control during times of chaos, Blake. This is the repercussions of what happened in 2020. The real world ramifications of the world close to being
have consequences, right? And especially if there were shenanigans to get them to win. Whether
what, let me add one more point. Then that is a good point, Blake. Let me shift from that one to this one here, because this I probably could have brought up in the last topic, of course, but we're a little out of order on today's show. But yeah, we're talking about, especially if last election had some shenanigans. Well, here's another one breaking. A Michigan judge just ruled that the Democrat Secretary of State's election manual that was issued to local election officials is unconstitutional and against state law. He is also mandating strict signature verification for mail-in votes in the upcoming 2024 election. Quote, the court declares that the initial presumption of validity in signature verification of absentee ballot applications and envelopes mandated by the December 2023 guidance manual issued by the defendants is incompatible with the Constitution and the laws of the state of Michigan. For similar reasons, the court declares that the catch line referring to an initial presumption of validity is incompatible with the Constitution and laws of the state of Michigan. Accordingly, those provisions must be excised from the guidance manual, and the catch line, that's from Judge Christopher Yates. They were actually trying to put in there, Blake, that signature verification in absentee ballot applications have an initial presumption of validity. Regardless of where they came from and regardless of what they look like, this is what the Democrats are trying to push. They're trying to put verbiage in there so that if ballots were stuffed, you can't undo it. There should be no signature verification. There should be no absentee ballots. There should be when I say no, there should be a tiny number, a very small number, under very strict circumstances, under very strict scrutiny and penalty options on the table if abused, Blake. But yeah, this is just another one in Michigan. I meant to add to the last one. I mean, we're also seeing this in Georgia. We're hearing stuff all over the place of very unsafe election practices. It has to be intentional, Blake, you would think, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, if the Democrats really thought they could win easily, then they should be agreeing to all of these things. They should be like, yeah, let's just let's prove once and for all that the people are with us. We don't need, we can do all of these measures like we've done for, most of our history. A single day or whatever. As long as there's oversight and we're showing IDs and there's legitimate votes, then that should be all transparent on the table and we accept the results. But there's so many flaws with the current system, and they seem to, they don't want to do anything about that. So it only shows you, and then they keep trying to push for, lowering the voting age where they can get more voters, or, letting prisoners vote, or getting illegal aliens, granting them amnesty so maybe they could vote. I mean, they're constantly pushing for that so they could get more, or same day registration. It's just all kinds of stupid stuff so that they can get more people to vote. Anything they can. So it's wrong on every level, and they're clearly up to no good. They know they don't have the votes. They know the internal polls, and so they're trying to do everything to cheat. In my opinion, if not, then why not just let's really have the most safe and secure election ever? Where fine, if Biden does get 81 million votes, and well, I guess there was oversight. It all happened in one night. We all got to see it, and there really are that many people that really turned out to vote for him that were legitimate, and they have signatures and IDs and everything. Then I guess Brian will just have to accept it. But at least that would be better than just not. And none of the courts want to look at it, and everybody's suspicious. And then it's like, well, I guess we're all just going to go to have a protest in D.C. in January. Then we'll make our voices heard. Then maybe they'll, look at the evidence. But no, I don't want to go through that again.
Yeah. I don't think I would like to go through that again. But in the course of rigging the last election in so many different ways, let's remember when this happened, Blake, the deep state, do you agree or disagree that they're complicit in dismissing Hunter's laptop? Remember, they had 51 former intelligence officials. Also, there's no such thing as a former intelligence official. Once you're in, you're always in. But 51 of them came out and said, oh, Hunter's laptop. Oh, please. We're the experts here, and we say that this has all the classic earmarks of Russian propaganda. Please, let's not listen to President Trump and the other pundits that are obviously pointing out the blackmail and bribery occurring here as we're poking the nuclear Russian bear fighting in Ukraine and building up NATO forces. Nothing to see here. Stop. This is classic earmarks of disinformation. Blake, right. The deep state complicit in this? Agree or disagree?
100%. And it's not just deep state, it's the media too. They could have very easily verified all of this, but they went along with it. So this was also blatant election interference. This could have prevented J6, because they're saying a lot of people might have changed their vote had they known.
21%.
Yeah, there was a significant amount. This was a legitimate. This was a perfectly legitimate October surprise. This was, cooked up by, Giuliani, Trump campaign that, Hunter Biden was involved in foreign business dealings, including while his dad was VP, and that they had a laptop with all kinds of compromising information on it, including some really dark, sinister stuff that looks like it involves, clearly involves drugs, crack cocaine, hookers, sex trafficking. It gets really dark and ugly. But apparently, some really great researchers, Marco Polo, and Brian tagged me on this earlier, is released a 640-page report on the Biden laptop with 2,000 citations that documents 459 crimes committed by the Biden family and their business associates. That's 140 business crimes, 191 sex crimes, and 128 drug crimes. And these FARA violations lead straight to Joe Biden. So there it is. This is the crime family. This is that 640. That look at the research that went into that. That is a manual with all the pictures and everything outlining. It is damning, and that laptop still, as far as I know, sitting in the FBI headquarters. Meanwhile, they bring out all these awful hacks from the deep state, 51 of them, to say that it's just Russian disinformation. And then they infiltrated social media companies like Facebook and Twitter with feds to perpetuate this lie. They shut down the New York Post, who first broke this story. Of course, they smeared and they took down social media.
And by the way, Blake, Facebook took down my groups and my profile. That picture where Hunter's got the scarf wrapped around his neck and he's standing there in his
right.
boxers, tighty whities. They said that I was engaging in abuse, harassment, and exploitation, I believe was the word that they used.
Yeah.
Exploitation, because I shared Hunter's own picture of Hunter while he was actively engaged in exploitation. All sorts of exploitation. His whole laptop is about exploitation, and some of these girls look way not 18. We want to talk about trafficking and exploitation. They took the exploiter and called me exploitive because I shared calling out what he was doing to exploit people. This is the level of gaslighting that these idiots have ascended to. This is what they're doing to people that are calling them out for their crimes, for their obvious lies. There is nothing they will not lie to your face about. It's simply breathtaking, Blake. And by the way, let me ask you this question, because Hunter getting found guilty, and that happening has led to some saying, well, look, nobody's above the law. See, Trump is found guilty of a felony and Hunter's found guilty of a felony. This being used as how they're going to spin this event. And by the way, you said how many crimes were outlined in that 600 some pages? Roughly 500 or 600 crimes, right? And they're getting him for this one. Is this
459?
459? Is this now going to be used to go after every American gun owner who has a single piece of paraphernalia or any amount of marijuana or any amount of other substance that could fall under this widely gray area scope of substances that you can't be addicted to or using at the time of your purchase of the gun? It's a provision that's really difficult to define, but if this opens the door to that, how concerned are you that that's going to be the next logical step by the tyrants who are trying to finish their full overthrow of this country?
Yeah, they'll use everything at their disposal, and they certainly will do anything they can to weaken the Second Amendment or completely remove it. If they had their way, we wouldn't have a First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment, 10th Amendment. I'm sure there's a few others as well. If they would like to, it'd change everything around, and this would not be a republic. It would be some kind of, perverted democracy where we would no longer be the same country anymore. So, yeah, absolutely, they would use that. And, yes, it just seems like it's a big distraction. They don't want to talk about the real crimes that he's been involved with, so they're going to target him for these ones, put him on ice for a while, and then eventually sweep this under the rug. And yeah, maybe that would come to for people trying to buy firearms in the future, they're going to be very strict. I don't know what are they going to do, make you do a drug test to get a firearm. You have to get a clean P test and get fingerprinted and go through all kinds of hoops so that you can get a single shot, rifle or something, a hunting rifle. I don't know exactly, but yes, if they can get away with attacking the Second Amendment and taking guns away, they will absolutely do whatever they can.
Yeah. Well, let me just tell you, Blake, what Catherine Herridge is saying here. Follow her reporting on this. She's saying the backbone of special counsel gun case was Hunter Biden's laptop user data. Pending a California tax. Am I sharing this page? Sorry, let me.
It's on there now. I put it up there.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Pending California tax case poses significant and potential legal jeopardy for Hunter and his immediate family. They're calling him a lobbyist. See, here's the thing we got to think about with Hunter, though. He's an employee of the deep state. He's there with Newland, Obama, Biden. Like, he's not just a junkie kid. He's a junkie kid who's performing a role for the deep state here. So in this, references to Ukraine and China strongly suggest investigators are exploring potential FARA violations, a foreign agent registry situation. This guy is a foreign agent. And then let's see, Jim Hansen says Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA, is a requirement if you take money from foreigners or if you get them meetings and advance their cause with the U.S. government. Hunter took the money. Joe took the meetings, dozens of felonies. This is the case that we need to be talking about. We need to stop talking about the gun thing other than getting marijuana removed from any sort of schedule that could get you in trouble for checking that button. It's absurd that that's still even on the same level of what was Hunter on, meth and coke and crack. I mean, literally out of his mind. Congressman Byron Donalds here says the American people don't support this two-tier system of justice in which the Department of Justice has decided that if you're GOP, they will come after you with everything possible. But if you're Hunter Biden, they'll wrap your FARA violations into a sweetheart deal that even a federal judge thought was a joke. Blake, you want to address that for just a second? The whole reason we got here is because they tried giving Hunter such a sweetheart deal, they couldn't even laugh it through with a rubber stamp. Do you remember what that was all about?
It's certainly been a while, but I agree. Obviously, it is a two-tiered system of justice, and yes, it's the elitists in the deep state have a different set of rules. And they were getting away with a lot of stuff for a long time, and we didn't know about it. But when it was finally exposed on the laptop, then they freaked out, they panicked, they buried it. And
they tried to wrap in there like this and any other future crimes. Like they tried to add one sentence into the plea agreement that would have made him completely bulletproof to his 459 other 490 his 490 other criminal events. So yeah, this Insurrection Barbie here says Democrats are above the law. If they weren't, Hunter Biden would have been indicted for FARA violations, money laundering, possessions of child porn, tax fraud, and possession of an unlawful firearm. So when all of that happens, come talk to me about how no one is above the law. So, yeah, that's kind of where we are, Blake. We'll keep our eye peeled on it. I guess sentencing. Well, wait, didn't they push this 6 months out? We're not going to get sentencing on this for quite some time, I believe. So, yeah, I mean, Trump's is set for July 11th. We will definitely be comparing and contrasting those. Okay, let's get to our final two stories here, unless you have anything else to wrap up on this topic.
No, that's a good run. Yeah.
Let's get into this one about the death of the dollar. What say you, sir? Is this coming sooner than people think? Agree or disagree? The death of the dollar is coming soon.
Oh yeah, it's things are looking really bad. So this is very underreported. In fact, I was even talking to my dad, who watches financial news multiple hours a day between Fox Business and CNBC, and he had not heard of this. This happened Sunday, very quietly. A 50-year deal that we had for the petrodollar, which has given us, so much power over the years, kept the empire, basically funded the empire for so long. We got off the gold standard back in 1971, and we were in financial crisis, and we made a deal with Saudi Arabia to force basically that they were going to price all of their oil in dollars, which made every other country in the world have to get dollars in order to buy oil. And that has kept us afloat and kept us as the solid, world reserve currency. So that 50 years that of our powerful petrodollar is now expired as of Sunday. And now Saudi Arabia will now sell oil in multiple currencies, including yuan, euros, yen, Bitcoin. I mean, whatever they can. So the collapse was Jimmy Corsetti here saying collapse of the U.S. dollar inbound. And of course, we've talked about these other countries are dumping our bonds. And there's the rise of BRICS. Other countries are going to have they're going to come up with their own currency that's actually going to be backed with real assets from Brazil and Russia, India, China, South Africa, and many other countries that are signing up for this. So our empire is in a massive amount of trouble, and a dollar could be. I mean, if we lose reserve currency, we're finished. We can't, fund these, huge all these military bases that we have everywhere. And then with more people dumping the dollar, we're going to have an economic crisis as bad as the Great Depression. It's just going to be all digital. But we're in massive trouble here. So there's another one. Saudi Arabia, the petrodollar pact ends, an end to global dollar dominance. It's just a matter of time, but the writing's on the wall. It's never been more apparent. So please, out there, if you have extra money, I would be seriously thinking about putting it into gold, silver, Bitcoin, anything. Start diversifying or acquiring assets, however you want to do that. Be prepared. You do not want to be caught holding a bunch of dollars that are going to have no value. We're already seeing all the massive inflation. It's only going to get much worse. You got 63 major banks on the verge of insolvency, and they won't even tell us which ones. The Federal Reserve cannot lower interest rates. And when they're hiding they're cooking the inflation numbers anyway.
I don't know. I've been thinking about that. They can't lower interest rates. Yeah, you can. You can take some stress off. Yeah, you can. You don't have to digitize more fresh money.
It's going to cause hyperinflation, right?
Yeah. I mean, says who? Says who? Put more
Well, that's
money back in people's pockets and they're going to be a little more comfortable. Raise the value of the dollar and they're going to be a little bit more comfortable.
But at the same time, the value of the dollar is going to go down. So all the costs of everything is just going to keep going up.
This is madness, Blake.
It is madness, but there's nothing they can do. The Fed can't lower, they can't raise. They just have to just stay put. And then meanwhile, the petrodollar's done, and people are dumping U.S. money. And it's they're adding another $1 trillion to the debt every 100 days. So that makes it feel that gives you those pointless, like, why should I even bother vibes? You know, it's like get some Bitcoin,
anyway.
Bitcoin, gold, silver, land, seeds. I don't know, whatever has some value,
tangible value. Yeah, Kenneth asking, where's his Biden bucks? Yeah, no, Trump had it. But, yeah, I don't know. Biden. By the way, I'd just like to take this moment to tell everybody that we are already in opposition. We are already opposing whoever the Democrats replace Joe Biden with. Already oppose whoever the Democrats replace Joe Biden with. Okay, any other thoughts on the death of the dollar?
Bitcoin, gold, silver, storable food, land, assets.
A paid-off vehicle.
I don't actually know if that would help so much or not with the debt. I don't know.
Well, it's just if you can own the things outright, if you can have a home, if you can have land,
right.
If you can have
right.
a vehicle, because if the $20,000 car is going to deal with the dollar collapsing, that'll be worth $40,000. It's not that the value of that doubled; it's that your dollar isn't spending far. So if you can get assets, like you said, accumulate things. Get out of holding raw dollars right now. By the way, don't take our investment advice because
not financial advice, but these are real things that are happening, and you can see the writing on the wall. Yes, there are much smarter economic people than I. I'm not an economy guy or a legal guy or a medical guy. I'm just a right.
Listen to Jim Cramer
type. Right. Yeah. Do the opposite of whatever Jim Cramer does. And you should be okay.
All right. Speaking of opposite, let's talk about this final story here, Blake. Agree or disagree that Lia Thomas should be allowed to compete in the Olympics? Is it opposite day? What say you?
Yeah, absolutely. But as a male, unless she doesn't have the genitalia. So I don't know. That's interesting. So Lia, or used William Thomas, who was like the 462nd ranked male swimmer in the United States, became a woman, or at least identified as one, and became the #1 female competitor in the United States. But the Olympic Committee is not having it, and they're saying no. So let's take a look at this. We have the article here. So Lia Thomas suffering the fatal blow amid Olympics lawsuit and a significant setback for transgender athlete Lia Thomas. The Court of Arbitration for Sport has dismissed his lawsuit challenging the ban on biological males competing against women in the Olympics. The 25-year-old swimmer had sought to overturn the entire. So it wasn't good enough to do it in Michigan or wherever he's from. Is it Pennsylvania? I don't care. Wherever it was, you just say the United States. Wasn't good enough. So the swimmer had sought to overturn the entire world's aquatics policy to go to him because he wants to identify as a female. So the whole policy that requires transgender women to complete their transition by the age of 12 in order to participate in women's races.
And you know what that's doing? That's encouraging people to try to transition before the age of 12, before they can make any permanent decisions about themselves, as if completing a transition is even a thing. You cannot develop an ovaries and a uterus, and you cannot complete that process. And having stuff on the books like that, that's only encouraging people to try to get started earlier to complete a process. so that they can wave around. Look how important and progressive I am. Look what I did to my kid. Look what I did for the cause. It's like, oh my God, let the kid, if you won't let a 12-year-old get a face tattoo, don't let them start going on puberty blockers. Don't ruin this kid's life. Don't mess with their plumbing. Let them make a choice at 18 if they want to.
A world champion female athlete in the Olympics someday, Brian. You are depriving them of their future glory.
It's astonishing that we have to have repeated conversations about this.
This should have been stopped at the collegiate level right away. Be like, dude, do you have a penis? Okay, well then you're not going to compete in women's sports. End of story. So unless you want to chop it off, and really, if you want to go all in, you can go all in. Taking a few chemicals and taking some estrogen, that ain't gonna be enough, dude. You take the penis out and you show that you're committed to really being a female. Then maybe you can be allowed to compete. That would
even then I would say no. Even then, I would say no. That's just
like, dude, I just chopped my dick off and I still can't compete. Come on, Brian.
Be like, I never told you that was like going to solve your problems, man. Your problems have nothing to do with the swimming pool, buddy. Like, let's work on you. Like, it's okay for you to be you. You don't need to, take on another persona. Like, you're okay being you, but you pretending to be something that you're not. We're not okay with that, whatever that is. So. All right. At a time where, did we chime in on the Caitlin Clark story on Tuesday?
Oh yeah, we did. We spent quite a bit of time on that one. Yeah.
All right. Well, ladies,
maybe not for the Olympics, but I mean, I don't know. I'm torn on that, whether she belongs in the Olympics or not. Whether she's served her time, paid her dues. Is she the best? She's certainly the most popular, and people would want to see her. But does she actually deserve to be on the women's team? I'm not 100%, so I'm staying out of that one. Clearly, people, that's the only reason they're tuning into women's basketball is for her. But I don't know. So here's a good one from the Babylon Bee. Disqualified Lia Thomas asks if he can just still hang out naked in the Olympic women's locker room.
Come on, guys. Can I just continue hanging out? Yeah, exactly. Right. It's so cringe. Like, how did we get here, Blake?
No, this should have been stopped at the collegiate level. That never should have happened, and should never have gotten this far. And the fucking balls on this asshole to actually sit there and try to, get into the freaking Olympics on the world stage and say, yes, I should be able to compete as a women's swimmer, even though you still got a penis. That's so ridiculous. Your mental illness and your narcissism. I'm glad they struck him down. I mean, it's embarrassing.
But here we are. We're on the front lines, Blake. We're on the front lines having conversations about the obvious stuff, trying to make sense of it all. And that's why people tune in.
Some European countries that are finally standing up and saying no to these transitions too. So yeah, the transgender, they overplayed their hand here, and finally there's some pushback. I don't have anything against these people, but I mean, this is just mental illness, insanity, and it cannot stand. So their fantasy meets reality, and reality wins, at least on this topic.
Yeah, what did Chappelle say? He's like, you can be you, but to what level are you requiring my participation?
There you go.
Like what my participation is not something you can demand of me. It's just not. Now I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but
yeah.
I think that's where we are.
Against transgenders. I don't care if Lia Thomas wants to identify as a female. I don't care. Do you, bro. But you don't get to participate in women's sports. Sorry, that's just a
non-starter.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I agree on that point as well. All right, were there any loose ends? Anything you want to promote coming up? Anything you're excited for? Commentary on the NBA Finals thus far? Any tidbits? Anything? I know we didn't plan on that, but anything you're looking forward to?
I don't know.
Way out, plug something.
Wait, say anything about the finals? I don't really know. Yeah, they're down 3-0. Dallas is in trouble. It's probably over. Boston's really good. I'm sorry the Timberwolves didn't get farther, but man, I don't know if they would have gotten past Boston either.
Boston knocked out the Cleveland Cavaliers too. So
And that's without their star center, Porzingis, who's
he was out yesterday too.
Yeah,
and they still
winning. So I don't know. Do they? I guess they're going to go on a dynasty unless. They're just stacked. How do they have that much talent on that particular roster? So they got Porzingis, Brown, and Jace. And I'm forgetting his name already.
Tatum.
They're stacked. Yeah. So Tatum is a superstar. I mean, they're loaded.
Yeah.
They got offensively, defensively. So I guess they're going to be around for a few years, unless somehow their salary situation, they're going to have to let somebody go. But they're going to be a dominant force, it looks like, for a bit.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that comes down to drafting well. If you hit on your picks and you kind of anchor with a very affordable superstar, I mean, that's the way to go. It's a lot like in the NFL. If you get like
the quarterback.
The young star quarterback under the manageable deal for, what is that, 3 years or 4 years? That first deal, 3 or 4?
Well, I think it's supposed to be 5, or it's 4 with the 5th-year option. I'm not entirely sure, but then sometimes they want to reward them earlier and keep them happy.
Yeah.
But, it's ridiculous. I think they should get paid at the end of the year based on their performance, in my opinion, to some degree.
Maybe to some degree, but like a falling out with the coach or an injury, and it's like you really like,
right. They should get like a solid base salary, and then the rest should be like based on statistics, performance,
escalators based on hitting certain criteria. Yeah, right. Well, hitting a triple double, like some people say it's a meaningless stat, and some people it's a stat padding situation, but. Yeah, we'll see. Look, the Cleveland Cavaliers came back from a 3-1 deficit to beat the Golden State Warriors. So let's see if Kyrie Irving, who hit that game-winning Game 7 shot for the Cavs, can orchestrate something similar, except he'll come back from an 0-3 deficit. We'll see, but I'll be pulling for him. All right. Thank you, Blake. I appreciate your time today on the Agree to Disagree show this Thursday, June 13, 2024. Make sure you're following Blake. He's at TV's Blake Walley and thenextlevelnews.com. All right, Blake. Appreciate you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Brian. All right. We'll catch you next week. All right. Take care. Right.
Peace out, sir. There he goes, everybody. Blake Walley. And this is the time where I would like to offer to you this comment. This comment is, if you appreciate the New American Media, what we do, what we provide, what we've been doing for 14 years, there's a couple of places where you can assist us. The homepage is thenewamericanmedia.com. They haven't updated it as much as I could have, should have, would have. But that's where you can find us. The way you can support us is go to patreon.com/thenewamericanmedia and you can sign up. You can do like $5 a month, $15 a month, $100 a month, $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, $5,000 a month. There's all sorts of different ways you can assist us. And if you're on Venmo, you just go at Brian Engelman, BrianEngelman. It helps fund this independent journalism, kind of like PBS. Public Broadcasting System. Is that what that was? Public Broadcasting Service or System? Funded by viewers like you. So thank you for that. And yes, Kenneth, definitely thank you to you. Always appreciate it, buddy. Definitely. Kenneth knows what's up. He asked me for weeks and weeks and months. He's like, yo, you got a Venmo? I'm like, no. He's like, well, if you got one, you might want to check it. So thank you, sir. Definitely appreciate it. Mary Gold says, great show. Mary, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate you. I will ask that you follow us on the alternate platforms. Please, please, please. Rumble, we are the New American Media. Please click subscribe and connect with us. On Spotify, we are the Agree to Disagree show. On Truth Social, we are the New American Media. On Telegram, we're TNAM. That's TNAM for the New American Media. TNAM and TNAM chat on Telegram. On X, we're at American_media_. No, we're on Rumble. We're not on Humble. Our batting average is too high to stay humble. On Facebook, we have a page, The New American Media, and we have a group, The Agree to Disagree Show. Search TNAM, and you can find TNAM Humor, TNAM Food and Drink, TNAM Preparedness. We have several different groups on Facebook. Just search TNAM. Such as TNAM's The Agree to Disagree Show. And also our page on Instagram, The New American Media. So find us there. And youtube.com/@thenewamericanmedia. About 1,400 videos over the past 13 years. So link up with us. No tumble, no crumble, no Red Bull, no humble. It's Rumble, folks. Rumble. All right. Special thanks to Blake Walley. We're going to keep our eyes peeled on that Supreme Court decision, hopefully tomorrow, and hopefully a lot of innocent people are released. That would be a great way to send off the weekend for a lot of peaceful people who got wrapped up in what appears to be a psyop. Definitely a rough situation, some overpunished people. So we'll follow that. Link up with us in all the other places, because in between our live shows, we are constantly putting different information out. If you follow us on Instagram, our daily story, you'll see it. We're going to send you 30 stories that are worth taking a look at. On X, we put different information out there. In our Facebook groups, we're constantly discussing the stories. And that's an interactive process between you and the New American Media. So thank you for all of that. Thank you for all of your comments. Thank you for everything. Not Biden. We'll say bye then to everybody out there. To Kenneth and Blake and everyone else in the TNAM universe. I appreciate you. Love you. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care. Have a great weekend, everybody.